So great. If you haven't seen it, oh, it's so great. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we're going to be talking about a double feature, one new movie and one movie that's streaming. If you're new here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being a subscriber. The two movies I'm going to be talking about today are Over Your Dead Body and Scary Movie 6. Let's get into it. Over Your Dead Body stars Jason Segel and Samara Weaving, which you'll recognize from Ready or Not and one of the recent Scream movies. She's an up-and-comer who I personally enjoy seeing in movies. And this particular movie has a 6.4 currently on IMDb. And just to let you know kind of more or less what it is about, it's about a couple who is already going through issues and they decide they're going to go away to a remote cabin to kind of rekindle or work on their relationship. But what they both don't know is that each one of them is planning to the other. So already that was intriguing to me. I was like, okay, this has some potential. I don't know where they're going to take it, what other aspects are going to be involved, but I am here for it. So I didn't see it in theaters, but I did recently see it on streaming. So let's talk about it. For the movie test that I do, if you are new here, the trailer test is one that I do specifically to discuss whether or not I feel that the movie lived up to the trailer. In this movie's case, it did pass the trailer test. I do feel that you get everything that you were sold in the trailer, if not more. And anytime a movie can do that, successfully lure people into those seats, but then also deliver more, that is always the ideal situation for any trailer in my book. The next test that I do is something called the husband sleep test. So my husband is a sleepy movie watcher, and if he is not fully engaged and the storyline doesn't keep it active and entertaining enough, then he is lights out going to sleep. If you are that type of movie watcher, or you happen to have a movie watching buddy or partner who happens to be of that variety, then this next test is for you. Over Your Dead Body passed the husband sleep test. It takes a minute to actually pick up on the action, but you can tell that those things that you're seeing in the beginning of the movie are later going to tie in and are very full of foreboding and foreshadowing. And anyone who has seen any form of 48 Hours or any sort of true crime documentary, you're going to pick up on the very unsubtle hints that are laid out in the beginning of this movie. And you're like, yep, I know it's coming from that. I can tell that this, and this are probably the reason for that. So just know that those things are done with intention and all feed into what ends up happening in the movie. So because of that, and because it does a good job of keeping that pace up, it passed the test with flying colors. Next is the balance test. The balance test is something where I just discuss whether I feel that the overall pacing of the movie was good. Do I feel like it dragged too much? Was it too slow? Did it have enough activity and engagement in order to make sure that the whole thing felt cohesive and not like a bore or snooze fest at certain points? This movie passes the balance test. Like I mentioned, there are little tidbits and crumbs of information that are given to you at the beginning that feed directly into exactly what you're expected to get later. And then there's a plot twist that happens that just feeds into the whole thing and then turns all the gore and action up to level 10, and then it doesn't let up from there. I really enjoy when a movie does that. I really hate when it does too much of this or flatlines too much in the middle. So when a movie can pick it up and then keep it at that same level for a good while, then that is a thumbs up in my book, and that's exactly what this movie does. Next is, would I rewatch this movie? I would say yes, but caveat that I would skip past certain parts. Like I've mentioned in some of my other videos, one of my pet peeves in a lot of movies, not just horror, but in a lot of movies, is unnecessary adult content scenes that I just really feel don't add anything at all to the movie and could have been completely taken out and it not done anything to the plot. If anything, heightened the movie experience. This movie does exactly that. There are some scenes in it where I was just like, what are they doing and why is this in there? And oh, my eyeballs and ears. So just know that going in, that there is going to be at least one or two scenes that are going to make you highly uncomfortable and are absolutely not okay for even children to be within earshot. Just know that in advance. On that same note, would I buy this movie to add to my personal collection? Unfortunately, I have to say no, I would not. And it is, again, because of those really crude scenes that I just really feel take the value of the overall movie down. And I would absolutely watch it for free, but I don't think that I would invest in having it in my collection. I do, however, still enjoy watching the movie either way. Lastly, what did I overall rate this movie? I gave this movie a 6 out of 10. Normally, a 6 is enough for me to want to think about possibly buying a movie. And this one, don't get me wrong, it has a lot of camp. It has a lot of really good and unexpected major gore in the movie. And those are positives. However, again, there's just some scenes, some crudeness in it. Overall, brought the vibe for me down. I think if they had took those things out, and if the overall chemistry between the two leads was more believable, then it would have been better. Because of those aspects of it, I just felt like it took it down several notches. Still enjoyable, still something that I think that if you like the storyline or the plot description interests you, then you should probably check this one out. Now let's talk about Scary Movie 6. First and foremost, I have to say that all of the advertising and the marketing for this movie were done really, really well. I love seeing all the parody looking advertisements for the Scary Movie franchise in general. I think those are done really, really well, and especially for this movie in particular. The movie currently has a 5.7 on IMDb, and for the most part, this franchise doesn't really perform well on the ratings level, and I see exactly why. The whole thing is really meant to be parody. It's meant to make you laugh. It's meant to be extremely silly and crude and all of those things. And if you know that going in, then I still think you would probably enjoy it, especially if you like all of the others. I think, however, I'm just really over the sense of humor on some of the bits for this franchise and this movie in particular, that it's really just gotten to be old hat, but we'll get into more details on that. For the trailer test, I do feel this one passes the test because you pretty much get exactly what you're seeing in the trailer. Stands true to exactly what all of the other franchise movies have done, pokes fun at pretty much all of the major movies that have been out recently. It sticks to the same exact type of recipe that it's had this entire time, and I don't think if you're a fan of the movies that you will be disappointed with it, because it is very on par with the rest. For the husband sleep test, this one was a fail. I think for the same reasons that it semi-lost me is the same reason that it just disengaged my husband, is that after a while, when you feel like the storyline is beating you over the head with the same type of lackluster jokes, then you kind of get bored of it, especially because the movie overall isn't like other movies where you're trying to figure out what's going on or there's like an end point. You can honestly watch segments of this movie as if they were shorts on YouTube and you wouldn't really lose anything. So for that reason, it just completely lost my husband, and he was lights out probably about halfway to 2/3 in. Balance, this one was a fail for me also, and that's because, again, I think if you're just rehashing a lot of the same stuff and you haven't really done a lot to evolve from the original movies, it didn't do enough. There were some jokes that were really, really funny, and I wish they had done less crude and more witty for a lot of the ways that they could have poked fun at a lot of these movies. For that reason, it just really felt like a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Would I rewatch it? Probably, for free. And it's gonna take me a while, to be honest, just because it wasn't bad. It just really wasn't memorable. And it was something where the enjoyable parts weren't enough to carry all of the really lowbrow humor that it tends to have in it that I don't personally enjoy. So I don't think I'll be rewatching it again anytime soon. For the same reason, I would not buy this movie or add it to my collection. I am sure though that if you're someone who enjoyed all the other scary movies, then you're going to enjoy this one and you will likely want to add it to your collection if that's the case. And what would I ultimately rate this one out of 10? I would rate Scary Movie 6 a 4 out of 10. I love Regina. She does a great job in it. I love seeing Anna Faris back on screen and doing something comedy related. I really want to see her in more movies. And the cameo that they do from the White Chicks movie in this movie was Chef's Kiss. I laughed so hard at that part. It was probably my favorite part of the entire movie. And I really do wish that the Wayans brothers were in more things, because I do enjoy them as actors and the things that they do. But Scary Movie, really, the entire franchise has never been one for me. A lot of the humor in it, I don't find that funny. Some of it, the stuff that does parody or make fun of scary movies, I find way more humorous than the crude type humor. And yeah, so I just, that's just kind of how I feel about it. I just don't think that it's one that is memorable enough. And for that reason, would I recommend you watching this one in theaters? I would say yes and no, because if you know what you're getting, if you're a fan of the previous movies, if you're just going there to get a good laugh and see what movies got parodied, and if you like those jokes, then I think that this is still worth seeing if any one of those things are true. However, if you are really not here for the kind of locker room humor type situation, if you don't like any of the other scary movies, if you think that a few good jokes sprinkled into a lot of crude jokes just isn't your cup of tea, then I would say this is not one to see in theaters. Perhaps wait for it to come out on a streaming service, and then that way if you get offended or you don't like what you're seeing, or you just find it boring or just not entertaining enough, then you can shut it off. On that same note, if you really want to see something that is a great parody, I highly recommend you check out something called Fruithead if you haven't already seen it on YouTube. Oh man, I just discovered it the other day, and I will link it in the description below. So if you were a kid that grew up in the 90s and you saw those Gushers commercials and the Airheads commercials and they kind of freaked you out a little bit, there's one in particular where it is the kids eating the Gushers and then their heads turn into fruit. And I remember talking to my husband about this, and my husband was saying that those commercials really freaked him out. And he was just terrified of that concept and the idea of that actually happening in real life. And then the other day we were looking up that commercial just to see it and bring back the nostalgia of it. And we discovered something called Fruithead. And it is basically a short film that was done based on that concept, and it is so great. If you haven't seen it, oh, it's so great. I was laughing. I had to watch it at least a couple of times because it's just so good. And the actor in the movie is the same guy from the Cabin in the Woods, and he's also the dad in Get Out. So if you want a good laugh on something parody wise without any crudeness whatsoever, absolutely check that out. It is great. I loved watching it, so much so that I watched it again, like I said, several times and just laughed the whole time because it's done so well. If you have any recommendations on movies you'd like to see me review or any lists that you would like to see me do soon, then please, of course, let me know in the comments below. And otherwise, please, if you have not subscribed, think about hitting that subscribe button and that like button as well if you like this content. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.